Hello class, welcome to today's segment whereby we are going to be discussing things to note, stroke mistakes to avoid in the reading IELTS test. So let's get right into it. Please note, there is no additional time to transfer answers. Transfer answers per questions in each sections to avoid running out of time before transferring any single answer. Guys, this is a legit concern. Do you know there's a candidate who had just started, it was on paper based, so they had just started the answers and written the answers in the rough paper, and they did not transfer their answers in the answer sheet. So they were waiting for them to finish writing the whole test on the rough paper and then transfer all the answers in the final minutes. I think they were assuming that they'll have some ample time left to transfer all the answers. Do you know what? They ran out of time before transferring any answer. This is a true story, and they got 0. Band 1, because you can't get a band 0 is when you have not attended the test. So they got a band 1. Guys, always transfer your answers per section, per section. If not per section, at least per passage. So once you finish passage 1, maybe if you are doing paper based, this is especially true in paper based. So if you're doing paper based and you've found the answers of section of the first passage, transfer the answers to your answer sheet. The answer sheet is what you're going to give out as your final answers to the examiners. If it's in the computer based, type down your answers per question. I repeat, type down your answers per question. So if you're doing computer based and you've identified this is the answer, type down the answer right then and there. If it's paper based, you can also write down your answer in the original answer sheet, but maybe you're in a hurry, you can just write it in the rough paper, and then once you're done with that particular passage, please do not move to the other passage without transferring your answers to your answer sheet. This is a major concern. Where you can save time, please save time so as to compensate where you may need additional time. This goes hand in hand with the point that we had noted previously, whereby we had said for the first passage, use shorter time as the intensity of the passages increases as you go along the test. So if you can save passage time in your first passage, please do. If you can save time on your second passage, please do. And this is why you should have your strongholds in terms of question types, so that you know that in a certain question type, I can spend less than 2 minutes in those questions, so that in your more difficult question types, you might spend more time. So please always have your stronghold so that you can use the time saved in your strongholds to add to the additional time you may need in your weak points. So yeah. Please counter check your answers to ensure that you don't miss answering any single question or you have not mismatched your answers anywhere. So, as I had said, do not leave any question unanswered. If you're unsure of a certain answer, please write down the answer, what you think might be the answer out of the 2 or 3 answers, and then star that question. Because one thing might happen, you might completely run out of time, or unfortunately you might mismatch your answers. For example, you had left a blank space, and then you know many things can happen in an exam. You forget, maybe you forget you had left that blank answer. So when you go to your next question, instead of filling the answer to the next question in the next question answer gap, you fill it where you had left for the previous question. So that way you have mismatched your whole section, the whole passage or section. And sometimes you might not even realize, like, many things can happen in an exam. You might not realize, by the time you realize, you've already wasted a whole maybe 10 minutes. And you know, in reading tests, time is of the essence. So to avoid such an error, please do not leave any question unanswered. You rather star it. Yes. Keyword. Zero blind guesses. Keywords are mostly in synonym-like form. I have talked about this now for the millionth time, I know, but I'm going to emphasize. Always underline your keyword in your question and the answer you want to give as your answer. If your answer does not have the keyword in your question, it probably is not the correct answer. Okay. Take note of synonyms. I hope everybody knows about synonym. Oh my god, I forgot to tell you what synonyms is, because I assume everybody knows what synonyms is. Synonym is something, how am I going to describe a synonym honestly? Synonym is a word that can be used in place of another word. For example, you can say something like synonym. Let me think of an example of a synonym. Synonym of friend is ally. Example, synonym of a friend is ally. So you can either say she's my friend or she's my ally. She's my mom or she's my mother. Something like that. Have you understood me? He's my dad, he's my father. So synonym is a name that can be used in place of another name to mean the same thing. Word count is very, very key. Please beware. As in every IELTS exam, be it listening, be it reading, be it writing, word count is very important. So if a section has specified use not more than 2 words, please do not use more than 2 words. Or if they have specified do not use more than 1 word, etc. Always follow the instructions of your section. And always tailor your answer to fit the instructions of your section. If your section has said do not use more than 1 word and you think the answer is the school, then eliminate the, put the answer as school. If you think the answer is Laura Mudeu, eliminate Mudeu, leave Laura as the answer. You know, just use common knowledge to see which answer best suits in that question gap to fit the required specifications of that section. Yes. Some paragraphs do not contain answers, so do not mind that. Sometimes, especially for me, when I had begun practicing for my reading test, I used to wonder, how come this paragraph does not have any answer to any question? And I used to think, does it mean that maybe I am not looking into that paragraph well, or I have made a mistake somewhere? But I came to realize some paragraphs just don't have any answers. So if you realize a certain paragraph does not have the answer to any question, do not panic. That's normal. Yes, and you're going to observe this as you do your practice tests. Computer based is kind of better in reading exam. Well, for me, I'd say that, but this is because CBT is generally better for me. As I had said, I'm not very good in writing speed, so typing speed is better for me. So the reason why I had said CBT is better, CBT meaning computer-based exam, is because for CBT, you just have to drag and drop your answers most of the times. You don't have to write them down literally. In most question types, you just drag the answer to your question box, to your answer box. You just drag your answer to your question box, so it kind of speeds up the required time for you to answer a question. So yeah, computer based is kind of easier, but if you're doing paper based, don't worry. The more you practice, the more you're going to increase your speed, and you'll just get used to it. Yeah, so it's nothing to worry about. Speed reading and understanding context is very, very key. So as we had already said, speed in IELTS is key. So specifically in reading, in the reading test, speed reading is key. Not only the writing or typing speed. You have to read the passage, and also you have to write down the answers. So the speed at which you're able to read and understand, not only read the passage, to read it and understand it is very, very key. So as you do your practice test, also practice the amount of time you need to read a passage and understand it. And also understanding context is very key. So the 1 minute I told you to peruse through the passage is for you to understand context. Understanding context means like you just have an overview of what the passage is talking about, and also understanding the context of your question is very, very key. So understanding the context of your question, what is this question actually talking about? And for you to know what this question is actually talking about, you have to have identified the keyword in that question, so that you match it with the keyword in your passage, and that is how you get your correct answer. So speed reading and context is key. Never leave any answers blank, rather do an educated guess. I'll repeat this once more. No leaving any questions blank. You rather do a complete guess. Maybe unfortunately, by very, very bad luck, you have run out of time. And this is where the importance of understanding your passage comes in play. For example, by bad luck, you've run out of time. You can clearly see it's 5 minutes remaining on your screen, and you've not answered about five questions or 7, 8 questions. You know what you can do? You can answer the first 3 well, and then you realize this 3 minutes remaining, I may not have enough time to read in detail through the passage left and answer the question the way I'd want. So in this case, you'll just read that question, and from the knowledge you've gathered from reading your passage over and over again while answering the previous questions, you're going to be able to make an educated guess. What is an educated guess? An educated guess is a guess with structure. You've not just guessed out of the blue, you've guessed with some information that you have gathered from the previous questions you've been answering. So yeah. Be very aware of true, false, and not given kind of questions. Stroke, yes, no, not given kind of questions. Guys, I'll first begin with saying that there's a difference between true, false, and true, false, and yes and no questions. Sometimes you might find that you've confused the two. So if the instructions in a section have told you to answer these questions with yes or no, please do not confuse and use true or false. You're going to make a very big mistake. So always remember, if the questions have asked you to answer with yes or no, don't use true or false, and vice versa. This is a mistake that many students encounter. You might have all the correct answers, but you've used true or no instead of not true or no, true or false instead of yes and no. Differentiate between these two and always use the type of answers your section has specified you to use. That aside, I think the trickiest question type is true or false, not given, and yes, no, not given type of questions. This is because you need to be very keen in this kind of questions, because you can easily mistake true, false and not given, or no and not given answers. We are going to discuss this very well in the live sessions, whereby I'll let you know how to differentiate true. As in, I feel like this is well explained in a question. Like, once we go to the live sessions, we'll able to tackle a question together, and I'll be able to explain to you more on how you'll be able to identify whether an answer is true, false, not given, yes or no, not given, yes. But I'll give you just a brief overview of how you're going to tackle this. So for true, you should be able to, when I tell you, directly point out your answer in your passage. Like you just directly point it out. Like it's like a copy and paste. The answer at the question or the statement, and that statement or answer in your passage. This is whereby a question or a statement is true. You should be able to clearly point it out in your passage. Clear as day. For false, you should be able to point out a statement that exactly contradicts that question or that information. Exactly contradicts. And for not given, there should be completely no information given in regards to that question or that statement. Completely no information. Have you understood? Okay, we are going to tackle these types of questions in our live sessions very well. And yeah, I know it's going to get easier with time. For reading, practice makes perfect. And as I had said earlier, first you practice getting the correct answers, and then after that you practice getting the correct answers on time. So the first 5 practice tests or so is getting the correct answers, and then from there it's getting the correct answers on time. So with that, we have come to the end of this segment, and yeah, I hope you've understood each point in detail. And the best way to apply these points or this knowledge is by actually doing the practice tests, and you're going to see where these points or this information comes into play in your reading test. So yeah, with that, let me close this segment and see you in the next segment, which will be about giving examples of questions you might encounter in the reading test, or rather how to handle different question types. Okay guys, see you and bye.